Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of New to Islam Chat Show. It's me, your host Ismail Bullock. And as usual, we like to have an interesting guest with an interesting story on how they became Muslim. And to do that with me today is Brother AbdulRahman, originally from the UK. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullah. Nice to be here today, Ismail.
Likewise, and it's been a long time since we've, we're not really meeting as such, are we? But, we have a brief history a long time ago when we were both young, strapping young men. So obviously maybe we could start with a bit about yourself, before we go into, how you found Islam and how you became Muslim. Just a bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Sure. Well, as I said, it's nice to be with you today. It has been many years since we've been face-to-face. And even though we're not physically face-to-face, like you say, at least we're virtually face-to-face. Amazing. Who I am? Well, my name's AbdulRahman. I wasn't born with the name AbdulRahman. I was born with the name Joel. I was born in Paddington, London, St. Mary's Hospital back in 1974. So that's it is 46 years. I was going to say about 46 years. It's 46 years ago. I grew up in Northwest London. I had a happy childhood, but a crazy childhood in that I was a bit of a wild child, a bit of a rebel. And from about 7 years old, found myself getting kicked out of every single school I ever went to and failed every exam I ever took before I was 18. Life was always going to head in one direction for me, which was to take over my father's business. So that's probably one of the reasons I didn't care that much about what I did in school. But life changed quite dramatically for me, unexpectedly, at 18 years old, as we'll probably talk about today.
Okay, well, so as you mentioned, you were, I guess you could say to some extent, your average UK child, teenager to some extent. So, and then you mentioned something changed at 18. So I guess this is the next question would be, of course, to ask you, like, this change, obviously, we can guess is to do with becoming a Muslim, or at least taking that step. So how did you even start looking down the road of Islam, and what, even getting interested into Islam?
SubhanAllah, it's a good question. So look, growing up, I didn't believe in anything, nothing at all, Ismail. I didn't believe that there was a God. I didn't believe that there was a creator, nothing. I completely disbelieved in every single concept related to faith, believing in any higher power. As far as I was concerned, it wasn't even a question worth asking. Why are we here? Don't even ask that question. We are here. We just have to enjoy ourselves. That's always what I believed. Strangely enough, even though I didn't believe in anything, I did pray 3 times. Before I was a Muslim, I remember I actually prayed 3 times, which is, now looking back, I understand why. But at the time, it's crazy because I was there saying, I don't believe in anything, but I'm still going to pray. And I did pray 3 times. Okay. One of the times I remember praying that I said, oh God, make me 6 foot tall. I wanted to be 6 foot. I didn't get that. The other one was that I prayed that Arsenal Football Club would win the double. And that happened. And the other one was something that I won't bother mentioning. That didn't happen either. Alhamdulillah, it's probably for the best. But growing up, I didn't believe in anything at all. And then one day when I was about 16 years old, I was at a party with a friend of mine, Simon, a Christian friend. And we were doing the usual things that young people do at parties. So, we weren't doing much good. And he turned to me really unexpectedly. And he said to me, do you not think why we're here? And I remember saying to him, yes, we're here because it's a party. What's wrong with you? And he said to me, no, really, Joel, like, do you not think, I don't know why he was saying these things, but he said, don't you think there must be a reason? Are we here just to do what our parents do? So I don't know what you're talking about, Simon. You're kind of freaking me out a bit. And he said, no, seriously, are we here just to make money like our parents, do business like our parents, and then die like our parents, and that's it? There's nothing else to life? And I remember telling him at the time, I said to him, if you keep on talking like this, there's not going to be much left of your life because you're driving me crazy. We would never have this conversation ever. But yet there he was saying these things to me. I told him, you're crazy, just keep quiet. And I forgot all about what he said. But that question, why are we here? That question definitely stayed in my mind. And it didn't stay here at the front of my mind, but it was here somewhere at the back. And it was a question that would continue to come up in my mind at 16 years old, you know.
Lingering around there in the back.
Yeah, it's just lingering there. And every now and then it would make an appearance when I least expected it. So, but don't get me wrong. I wasn't fixated on finding the answer. It was just this nagging thought at the back of my mind, as you said. And from time to time, when this thought would come into my mind, I'd kind of look for the answer. So, for example, growing up in Northwest London, St. John's Wood, I used to have to go to the library to do my homework. And St. John's Wood Library is a small library. And when I used to go there, I'd get very easily distracted. I found out later that I had ADD, attention deficit disorder, so that probably, you know, helped the whole thing along in terms of getting distracted. I get very easily distracted at the library, and I started looking at books. And I found the section in front of me where I remember exactly where I was sitting. The section was religious studies. So as a distraction from what I was meant to be doing my homework, I'd go and have a look at the books. So I'd pull down the Bible, and I'd pull down a copy of the Torah, and I'd pull down just every book that I could find. And some of those books I would actually take home with me, you know, in the libraries back in the UK. I haven't really found that here in Saudi, but which is where I've been living for the past 20 years. I didn't mention that. The books, you could take them home. So I remember taking a few books home and reading them, but I never found the answer that I was looking for. And the answer I was looking for was to the question, why are we here? Why am I alive? What is there an answer to that question? So from about 16 and a half to about 17 and a half, you know, over that period of time, I kind of pretty much read most of the books that were there on various faiths, as well as communism, Marxism, like all the different isms. And I didn't find anything. So by 17 and a half, around that time, I said, you know what? Forget it. There's no answer to this question. I'm going back to the nightclubs. I'm going back to partying. I'm never gonna think about this stupid question again in my life. Until one day, when I was on my way, I can't remember where I was going. I think I was on my way to college at that time. And I was on a bus, and I was going past a huge mosque, Regent's Park Mosque. I think it's called Central Mosque in London. And as I was driving past it, because I was on the top deck of the bus, it was Friday, and I could see all of the people from really far walking towards the mosque. And I remember seeing all different colors, all different nationalities. There were people dressed in Pakistani traditional dress. There were people dressed with Arabian clothes. There were just, I mean, everybody that you could think of was there. It was like the United Nations almost. Everybody was there. And I remember I was looking out the window, and I was thinking, well, who are these people? You know, who are these people? Because what I didn't mention was in the books, in the library, there was nothing about Islam. That's probably something I shouldn't. There was nothing about Islam in the library. So yeah, I'll go back over that bit again. What do you think? When I was in the library, I read books about every religion, but there was nothing about the religion of Islam. No translation of the Quran, nothing. So I didn't even know there was a religion called Islam.
Okay.
Anyway, I didn't even know there was a religion. I knew that there were people called Arabs, but I didn't know anything about, I didn't know the name Islam. It meant nothing to me. So anyway, that day I saw all of these people going towards the mosque. And I said to myself, well, who are these people then? I don't recognize these people. I don't know who they are. So instead of continuing to college, as I probably should have, I got off the bus and I walked to the mosque.
Okay.
Now, as I got closer to the mosque, I remember feeling quite scared, because I remember thinking, wait, these are the people, because I saw a lot of Arabs, and I remember thinking, wait, these are the people that I've seen on television. Now, back then, maybe as you remember as well, I mean, you're talking about 28, 29 years ago, the picture of what we know now as Islam, but the picture of the Arabs back then, it was really bad on the television and in the media. As well as there were a lot of planes being hijacked at that time. I remember images of people standing on top of airplanes with a Quran in one hand and a machine gun in the other hand. So all these images that I had in my mind started to come forward as I got closer to the mosque. And I got quite scared, because I thought, wait, what am I doing? This might not be a good idea. So I stayed outside the mosque, and I sat down on a wall. And I just sat there. The people went in. They listened to the Friday sermon, and the people left. And I was still sitting there. It must have been for about an hour and a half, sitting there just thinking, I would really like to know who these people are. You know, there was just something, I don't know what, but I wanted to know who they were. And I was about to leave, and then a man came towards me, and I now know that man was from Sudan. And he said to me, "Are you a Muslim?" I said, No, I'm not a Muslim. And he said, "Okay, wait there." And he went away, and he came back with two books. One was the translation of the Quran, and another one was a book, and I'll always remember it. I've never seen it since, but I'll never forget it. It was an orange and blue book called What Everyone Should Know About Islam and the Muslims by a lady, I think called Suzanne Hanif. I just remember the name, you know. I've got no idea whether it was a good book or not a good, but I remember those are the books that he gave me. And he said, take these books, read these books, and if you have any questions, come back to us. I said, that's really nice. Thanks a lot. So I took them, and that's it. I went about my business. I took those books home. I knew that the translation of the Quran was something special. It looked like the design of it looked like it was a special book. And I hid it from my parents. I put it at the top of my book, top of my wardrobe, under some blankets, so nobody would see it, because I knew that, you know, if anybody saw me reading a book like that, they probably think I was crazy or wouldn't be too happy with me. And every now and then I would take that translation of the Quran down and I would read it. But to be honest with you, brother, when I read it, it was written in very old Shakespearean style English. And I had a good education. Well, I had a good education. I went to good schools. I got kicked out of a lot of schools. But, you know, I mean, I'm not stupid. I always had a passion for reading and a passion for literature. But the way that this translation of the Quran was written, I found it really difficult to understand. And so after, yeah.
Probably very Muhammad Marmaduke Pickthall kind of translation, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was. It was way back in those times. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just like that. And I remember
good for the times of Queen Victoria, but not quite for us, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. And I couldn't relate to it, you know, and even though I kind of wanted to, I just couldn't. And I remember reading it and I put it back. I take it down a couple of times and try again, but it didn't connect with my heart because I couldn't really understand the message. I said, you know what? I'm done. Forget about it. Again, forget about it. And at that time I was almost 18 years old. I was about, 3 months away from my 18th birthday. Again, I was on a bus and I overheard two ladies talking. And this is about a month afterwards. And I wasn't even thinking about Islam or anything. But then I heard, but the question was still there. You know, the same question from my friend Simon, it was still there, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then I was on a bus and these two ladies were talking to each other. And they said, there's a park in London, Hyde Park. And in Hyde Park, there's a place called Speaker's Corner. And in Speaker's Corner, she was describing her experience. She said, it's crazy. You've got people from every religion, you know, talking about Islam, you know, talking about Judaism, Christianity, everything. You could spend the whole day there listening to people from different religions. So when I heard that, I said, okay, that sounds interesting to me. Let me check that place out. So I did. I went one Sunday to Hyde Park and I found this place called Speaker's Corner. And I remember as I went into Speaker's Corner, the amount of noise that was coming towards me, it was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was as you board an airplane and the engines are going and you hear that loud noise as you go up the stairs of the airplane. It was just this huge noise of chatter of people speaking. And I thought, what is this place? This place is crazy. So I went around, I listened to the Christian guy, I listened to the Jewish guy, I listened to a Buddhist, and I listened to a Hindu. I listened to everybody that I could find. I didn't really find anything that made, you know, any sense to me. Then I found a Muslim. And this Muslim was from Trinidad, and he was standing on some steps, speaking about verses from the Quran to do with science and to do with mankind and to do with the way that people deal with each other and the peace of Islam. And I remember when he was speaking, I couldn't find any mistakes with what he was saying. You know, there was no racism in what he was saying. There was no hate in what he was saying. There was just logic and, you know, powerful words, beautiful words. He wasn't insulting anyone. He wasn't saying bad things about other religions. In fact, he wasn't saying anything about other religions. He was just talking about what was in the Quran. And I remember at that point saying, wow, all right, I like this. Whatever this is, I like it. I want to know, I want to hear more about it. So I said, okay, I'm going to come back next week. I stayed there the first day for about 4 hours. And I said, I'm going to come back next Sunday, inshallah. Well, I didn't say inshallah. Now I'm saying inshallah. So I said, okay, I'll come back next Sunday. Now, during the week, because I was a little bit, I was a bit encouraged and excited by what I found. I started walking down Edgware Road, which is a street in London, as you know, full of Arab shops, restaurants, and it's just full of Arabs, really. A lot of Arabs live there and work there. So I said, okay, if maybe I can find some more information about Islam, about what he was talking about, because I liked what he was saying. Maybe I can find some information from some of the bookshops. And so I started walking down Edgware Road, and I remember I went into about maybe 6 or 7 different shops, and none of them had any information about Islam. Not like today, subhanAllah. Now, alhamdulillah, you find everything you need about Islam easily. But back then, the only things they were talking about was Arabic calligraphy and architecture, some history, but nothing. I remember saying to them, do you have anything about Islam, the religion? They're like, oh, no, we don't do that. So, okay. So I went back the next week to Hyde Park, and I found the same person and some other people as well. And I was listening to them. And then after the second time of being there, I said, man, next time I'm going to record what they're saying, so that I can listen to it during the week. So at that time, we used to have something called a Walkman. You remember the Walkman, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of your viewers might know what a Walkman is, but a Walkman is a portable cassette player. Yeah, go ahead.
Showing our old age now.
Yeah.
and then you're going to say a portable cassette player. They're going to say, what's a cassette player?
What's a cassette? Right. So they can Google it. Google Walkman.
They'll be like, isn't everything portable?
Yeah. Oh man, when we had that, we thought we had something special. SubhanAllah. So I had my Walkman, which allowed me to record on a cassette, on a few cassettes, what the person was saying. And I went there the third week and I recorded what he was saying. And during the week, I would listen to it. And this continued for about 6 months. So I was about 18 years old and 3 months. And after about 6 months, I remember saying to myself, today you have to speak to this guy. Because in 6 months, I didn't speak to anyone. I was still scared. I was still nervous to speak to him. I didn't know what's his response going to be to me. I just didn't know. But what I did know is I wanted to know more about what he was saying. And after 6 months, I knew one day, I thought anyway, one day I want to be a Muslim. Because everything this guy's saying, I actually believe it now. It makes sense to me. So by that time, I had changed. Before, I didn't believe in God, in a creator. I'm sorry, I didn't believe in anything. But by this time, I believed that there was a creator. I believed that the creator sent messengers to teach us and to show us how to live on this earth. I believed in those things. By the time I'd been going to that park for 6 months, but I hadn't spoken to him or to anybody. So I remember, honestly, brother, wallahi, I remember I knelt down. I remember my head was kind of dizzy. And I said, today, Joel, you're going to speak to him. Today, you've got to speak to him. You've got to be brave and just speak to him. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I was really nervous. I remember, and I went up to him when he finished, and I said, excuse me, I remember the exact words. I said, I don't know if you've got time for somebody like me, but I think that I would like to be a Muslim one day. And he said to me, you want to be a Muslim? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, not now. I'm saying in the future. He said, okay, I mean, how can I help? Or I want to help, something like that. I said, well, I need information. My only information is you. For 6 months, I've been coming here listening to you. I don't have any books. I don't have anything. He said, okay, how about if you like, we can sit now and we can talk for a bit and I can answer any questions that you have and everything else. I said, yeah, that'd be amazing. Like, wow, I didn't expect that. That would be fantastic. Thank you. So we sat down in the park for must have been about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I remember he was telling me so many things about the pillars of Islam and the pillars, about Iman and about the angels and about the books and about Qadr. MashaAllah, he was telling me everything. And any questions I had, he was answering the questions for me. And after about 2 hours, he said to me, listen, everything we've talked about, do you believe it? I said, yeah, I believe it. 100%. I've been coming here for 6 months, and now after speaking to you, 100% I believe it. He said, okay, if you believe it in your heart, then are you comfortable saying it with your tongue? What's in your heart? I said, well, yeah, I've always been like that. I mean, if I something, I say it. That's probably why I got kicked out of so many schools, because if I believe something, I'll say it. So I don't have any problem with that. He said, okay, because if you believe this in your heart and you say it with your tongue, then that makes you a Muslim. I said, okay, I kind of get what you're saying. And then he said to me, look, put it this way. Do you believe that there's nothing that deserves to be worshipped except Allah? And do you believe that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final slave and messenger? Do you believe that? I said, 100%. He said, okay, say after me. And he said in Arabic first, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. So I said it. Very difficult to say it. I mean, you've been there, you know, it's difficult when you're trying to say those words and he's correcting you and you're saying, Ashhadu, and you don't know what you're saying. Then he said, in English, I bear witness that there's nothing that deserves to be worshipped except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final slave and his messenger. So I said it. And when I said it, he hugged me and he said, congratulations, today you're a Muslim. And I remember as he was hugging me, I said to him, no, not today, not today. And he said, wait, what do you mean not today? He said, if you believe it in your heart and you say it with your tongue, then that makes you a Muslim. I said to him, no, but I think maybe I should do it in like 1 month, 2 months. I said, let me be I remember I was holding him. I said, let me be a mini Muslim now and a real Muslim after a few months, you know, because there's many things that I'm doing now that are not good for Muslims to do. And he said to me, brother, if you believe it in your heart, you're a Muslim. And I said to him, wow. And as soon as I said that, I remember I opened my eyes and there were so many people, brother, you know, maybe 40, 50 people. I hadn't even realized they'd all been watching. And then they all came up to me one by one and started hugging me and like, Allahu Akbar, mashallah. I remember one brother from Jamaica, I had my cigarettes there because I used to smoke. I remember he took my cigarettes and I always remember he said, you won't be needing these anymore. And he went to rip my cigarettes. And I was like, no, I need them. But at that point, I realized that I'd entered the religion of Islam because I wanted to and because I believed in it. But I didn't expect it to happen that day. And even when I was saying it, I didn't think that I would be a Muslim from that day. I really wanted to delay it, you know? So that's my story up until the time when I said the Shahada, the declaration of faith.
So now, obviously, now you took that Shahada, and it's interesting you said that because a lot of people, they have that misconception, or they do it backwards, where they know deep down, maybe there's people watching us right now, deep down, they know exactly, they believe it, it makes complete sense, it's the only thing that makes complete sense. But they say, but, you know, I'm not going to become a Muslim because I've got this sin and that sin.
Yes.
I've got this vice and that vice. So they do the opposite way around. They say that I will become a perfect person and then I'll become Muslim. And as you know, no one's perfect. It's
right.
We always say the first thing you do is you become a Muslim. We don't want to use the born again kind of example, but literally when you become a Muslim, it is like you've been born in the sense of you're sinless. It's like you're starting, and just like that newborn baby slowly starts to develop and crawl and then wobble around and then talk and then eat by itself. It's how you become as a Muslim. So you have to kind of be born, for lack of better words, and then you slowly learn, rather than thinking you're going to be a full-blown, you know, grown person and then you're going to go and learn. It doesn't work like that. So this is an important thing to mention. And once you became Muslim, how did your family react, and how did your social circle, and how did that go?
Sure. Well, I remember that day when I became Muslim in the park, and I remember all the brothers at that time, they said, we're going to the mosque now to pray the evening prayer, Maghrib prayer. Do you want to come? I remember saying to them, like, definitely not. This is just becoming a Muslim, that's enough for me today. You know, I'm not ready to go to the mosque yet. And so the journey started there. And part of that journey, I sat down in the park once everybody had left. And I remember I said to myself, I remember it like it was yesterday. I said to myself, Joel, this is the best thing you've ever done in your life. I didn't know what was ahead of me, but I knew that what I had done was the best thing I'd ever done in my life that day. So I went home. Now, of course, I didn't say anything to my family because I knew that my family's reaction my family would not be happy at all. That would be an understatement. My family would go crazy if I told them. And they'd think that I was crazy because I was living a wild life of partying and excess and just about everything that you can think of that's not good for you. And all of a sudden, I was going to be this person who was, believing in God and religion. And my parents grew up with no faith at all. I mean, there was, inside of our house, we celebrated every celebration you could think of. We had a Christmas tree. We celebrated the Christmas holidays. We had a menorah, celebrated Jewish holidays. We celebrated Diwali. We celebrated the Hindu holiday. We celebrated any holiday we could celebrate. We celebrated it. So I didn't tell them at first, and I was really nervous about doing that. But I was also, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I guess for the first few weeks, I didn't do anything. And then somebody called my house, I think, and said to me, would I like to come to the mosque? And, they show me how to pray and everything else. And I agreed to that. And the first time I went to the mosque for the first time was a really powerful moment for me. Stepping inside a mosque and praying with other Muslims was such a powerful moment for me that I think, that was a very overwhelming moment. I broke down 100%. I remember just thinking, I didn't know what I was doing when I was praying, but I was just crying. I just remember thinking, this is nuts. Like my whole life has changed now. This is very powerful. I feel a connection for the first time in my life between my own creation, my own body, and the one that created it. And that was something that I'd never experienced ever in my life. So I started to get attached to the mosque, and I started to love going to the mosque. And the more I would go to the mosque, the more I would start slowly to have a better understanding of Islam. And I always remember there was a beautiful, beautiful brother at Regent's Park Mosque called Mahmoud Tayyib, who's a Saudi brother, but spent many years. You might know Mahmoud, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Mahmoud for a time for a while when I was living quite close. I was there like Mahmoud every day, so yeah.
SubhanAllah, the same as me. SubhanAllah, the same as me. So yeah, I last saw Mahmoud when I was in England for my son's wedding. Alhamdulillah, he came. I hadn't seen him for years, mashallah. So Mahmoud started to help me to understand the religion of Islam, and he started to prepare me for what might happen when my family and friends know about my conversion. And I remember he used to read to me stories of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the companions that he had, and how when they had embraced Islam, and of course in the life of the Prophet himself, peace and blessings be upon him, the hardship that he'd encountered, the harshness sometimes that some people had treated him with because of believing in Allah. And so I was kind of getting a little bit ready for it, to tell them. I was feeling a bit more confident. I had a little bit of knowledge, very little, and a little bit of faith. And after about 6 months of being a Muslim, I had read the hadith about growing your beard. And I remember reading the description of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it described his beard. And I remember reading the hadith about it. So I remember I said to some Muslims, I remember saying to them, I read this hadith. That means I'd like to grow my beard. I remember many of them told me, no, don't do it. You don't need to do it. But then I remember saying to them, why not? Why not do it? I mean, I love it. If this is what the Prophet Muhammad did, I embrace this religion because I don't want to be like my old life. I'm gonna do that. So for the first time in my life, I stopped shaving and I let my beard start to grow. Now for about 5 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, nobody, my family didn't say anything. It's no big deal. But after a month, 2 months, it was quite obvious that there was a change in the way that I looked. On top of that, my mother, in particular, my mother had started to really question why, over that 6-month period, why had my friends stopped calling me? You see, I was a really popular person before converting to Islam. I had a large circle of friends. They used to want to go to the nightclub. They used to want to go here and there. And I started not to want to do those things. And when they didn't know that I'd become a Muslim either. But when I said to them, no, I think I'm going to stay in tonight. I'm not going to go to the nightclub and I'm not going to go to that party. They started to just move away from me. They didn't really want to be around me because I wasn't the same fun guy anymore. So my mother had started to say, like, what's wrong with you? And she really questioned me. I remember my mother, I remember one time she was so concerned that she said, I don't know if you want to leave this in or edit this out, but I remember my mom turning to me and she said to me, are you a homosexual? Is that what's happened to you? Like, is that why no girls are calling you anymore? Because I used to have girls calling quite a lot. She was like, has something happened? Have you become a homosexual? Is that what's happened to you? And I say, Mom, nothing's happened to me. But I wanted to say, Mom, I've become a Muslim. That's what's going on. But I didn't say anything. So she was really concerned why my life had changed. She could see my physical appearance was starting to change. And after about 6 months, I remember telling myself, you need to tell them. I can't lie to them. I want them to know. I want them to know where I'm going each day. I'm going to the mosque and I want them to know. And it's impossible to hide it now because I've got this beard that's starting to grow on my face. So I decided one night I'm going to tell them. And the day before I wanted to tell them, I always liked, even before Islam, I liked the Islamic style of clothing. And I really like the kufis, the hats that I would see some of the Muslims wear on their head. I don't know exactly what they're called in different countries, but that small hat that you would see them wearing, I really liked. And I remember after about 3 months of being a Muslim, I asked somebody in the mosque, can I wear one of those? I didn't know, can I wear one of those? And he told me, no. You can only wear that when you know a lot of knowledge about Islam. Yeah. So I said, how much knowledge? He said, when you know, I don't know what was wrong with why he said this, but he said, you have to know at least 3 surahs in the Quran. Then you can wear it, but not before. Anyway, after 6 months, I knew more than 3 surahs in the Quran, alhamdulillah. So I was like, yes, I'm going to wear that hat. So I got one of those hats. I remember that was the night before I told my parents about my conversion. That night, my parents were watching television. I'll never forget it. And I came downstairs. I said, Mom, Dad, I said, I've got something to tell you. And they both looked at me. I said, okay, what? I said, I've converted to Islam. I've become a Muslim. And when I told them, my father started laughing because he thought that I was joking. My dad just started laughing. My mother started crying immediately. She started crying because I think for her, all the pieces in the puzzle all came together. Wait, that's why he's been acting like that. That's why this has happened. And it was too much for her. She just started crying. My dad was still laughing. And my mom said to me, is anything going to change in the way you look? And I remember saying to her, I said, there's 2 things. Number 1, I'm starting to grow my beard. And she started crying more. And she said, is there anything else? I said, yeah, there's one more thing. And I went upstairs and I got my little hat. Because I thought that was part of Islam. I thought like this now, I know 3 surahs of the Quran. So now I came downstairs, I said, I'm going to be wearing this hat from now on as well, which I later found out, of course, is a mistake. And this just shows the importance of when somebody's a new Muslim, making sure that they have good knowledge and a proper understanding of Islam. So I came downstairs again. I said, I'm going to grow my beard and I'll probably be wearing this hat a lot of the time. And she said to me, can I see it on you? So I put the hat on my head. She started crying even more, subhanAllah. And that was the moment that I told her. I also then told my friends. And for the first couple of months, nothing really changed. But after a couple of months, things really took a turn for the worst. I don't know if you want me to go into that.
Yeah, you can briefly mention it, inshallah. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, okay. So briefly, what happened is that when I used to get up to pray, when I used to go to pray Fajr prayer, the morning prayer, I used to wake my father up by making wudu, preparing for the prayer. I don't know how he used to wake up, but he used to wake up. And he'd get angry with me. Like, oh, you're making too much noise. And he'd get upset with me. So then I didn't want to upset him because I knew that Islam teaches us to be very respectful to our parents. Before Islam, I was so disrespectful to my parents. I mean, I had terrible behavior with my parents. I would tell them terrible things and behave in a terrible way. Alhamdulillah, I learned that Islam teaches us that you cannot say bad words to your parents. You have to be kind and gentle with them. Even if they upset you, you can't even say, oh. So I was trying to practice that. So before going to sleep, I would take a small bowl of water into my bedroom. And I'd say, okay, when it's time for the morning prayer, instead of opening the door and going to make wudu in the bathroom, which seems to wake him up every time, I'll just make wudu in my bedroom. I'll just wash in my bedroom, which is what I would do. And despite doing that, and despite praying very, very quietly, my father would wake up every Fajr prayer. And whether it was shaitan, the devil, I don't know what was making him wake up. I was being so quiet, and I'd be praying, and he'd open the door and it would bang on my head, and, you know, because my head was on the floor, and he'd shout at me. He was really getting more and more agitated by me being a Muslim and praying in his house. So one night we went out for dinner to a lovely Italian restaurant in St. John's Wood. And after the meal was over, my father, I was with my mum, my dad, my sister. My dad turned to me and he said, "Listen, Joel, we have no problem with you being a Muslim. We want you to know that. We have no problem with you being a Muslim. But you can't be a Muslim and be in my house." I said, "Dad, what do you mean by being a Muslim in your house?" He said, "Praying. There's no prayer in my house." My dad doesn't believe in anything, by the way. And I'm very, very close to my father today, alhamdulillah. You know, very, very close with all my family. But at that time, he said, "Praying. There's no prayer in my house. If you want to pray, you need to find somewhere else to live." So I said, "Dad, what are you saying?" He said, "What I'm saying is clear. You have a choice. Agree, tonight, you come home, no praying in my house. Or we leave you and you find somewhere else to live." I said to him, "Dad," I remember saying to him, "Dad, Mum, my sister," I said, "Listen, I love all of you so much." And I was prepared for this because Mahmoud had kind of told me this might happen. I knew it was happening, but it happened so quickly. I didn't expect it. I was having dinner. I said, Dad, I love you so much. All of you, I love you so much. But I've learned that I have to love the one that created you and created me more. So as much as I love you, I have to love the one that created you. And the one that created you and the one that created me told me that we have to pray 5 times a day. And I hope that you'll let me do that in your house because I really have nowhere to live and I don't want to leave. He said, tonight, you're not my son. Tonight, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a son. And they stood up and they left me in the restaurant. And from that moment, I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. So I walked to Regent's Park Mosque and I sat outside until they opened the morning prayer so I could meet Mahmoud and tell him what had happened. You said briefly, so I was going to stop there.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess because we probably need to round it up in the next 5 or 6 minutes, but I mean, sure. So obviously after time, as we know, those things slowly got better and worked out. And you mentioned now, and I can kind of relate to that. I wouldn't say anything as extreme as that, but I also at the beginning, and a lot of it is due to lack of understanding of what Islam truly is. And there's that fear factor. And obviously, how old are you then again? You remind me, 18?
I was 18, yeah.
So I was 14. So you can imagine how more of a, for a parent, you can kind of understand to them who don't have an understanding of Islam, whether you're 14 or 18, like what the heck is going on. So I remember similar kind of things like having to pray quietly in secret. And I'd come maybe find the prayer mat and throw it away, and I have to. And I remember the funny things. I mean, where I'd be like making sujood, and someone would come in, and I'll pretend I was looking under the bed for something, or things like that. So we all had those funny, interesting stories. But I mean, to end on this, I guess I would like to, just for the next couple of minutes until we go to the end, what would you advise people out there who are interested in Islam? Some may be searching, some may have come to the conclusion, but they're not taking the step. What would your advice be to them?
I suppose my advice would be, that there'll never be a perfect situation. There'll never be a perfect time to become a Muslim except one time, and that's right now. Becoming a Muslim doesn't mean that your life has to change significantly overnight. It doesn't mean that you're going to go from doing X, Y, and Z to suddenly living this perfect lifestyle that's totally holy and keeping in line with what's expected of people who adopt a new faith. No, becoming a Muslim is simply you acknowledging that the reason that you're here, the sole purpose of being here, is to live a life in obedience to the one that created you. And just merely acknowledging that is such a huge thing. and such an amazing thing that delaying that, when it's such an easy and light thing to do, and it's between you and your creator, to delay it would be perhaps the most dangerous thing you could ever do. If you're thinking about becoming a Muslim, I would say the most important thing, of course, is to have a really clear understanding of what Islam is, and not to be confused by the behavior of Muslims. I do remember before becoming a Muslim saying to myself that if I judged Islam by the behavior of some Muslims, I'd never embrace Islam. The Muslims have mistakes. They're, because they're people, all right? A Christian isn't necessarily a reflection of the faith. A person who's Jewish isn't necessarily a reflection of Judaism. Not everybody, and same with Muslims. Not every Muslim is necessarily a perfect reflection of what Islam is. But go to the source, go to the Quran, and find good sources of information like your channel here, Ismail, and other places. And once you believe, like I did, that there's nothing that deserves to be worshipped except the one creator, and that you believe in all of the messengers, not making any difference between them, then that there is enough to say, I'm a Muslim. And doing so will change your life forever, in this life and when we move on to the next life. So that's probably that's the advice I would have liked to have been given when I was about 18, and it's almost the advice I was given in Hyde Park that day.
Great. I mean, I guess to end, what we always say is, Islam is perfect, Muslims aren't. Because we always look at Islam and not act as what you may have experienced with certain Muslims or what you may think Islam is. Yeah. Go to the source. Well, it's been great, having you on, Mel, reward you, and it's been quite an interesting story and some kind of relation there to the different ups and downs. Again, for the viewers, thank you for tuning in to this. And as you know, we have these episodes monthly, so make sure you join us for the next session, inshallah. And we leave you with the greetings of Islam, which are the greetings of peace. Wassalam.